Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the President of Casa Foundation Friends of Africa 24/7 conference. Distinguished guest, I'd like to welcome to the stage President of Casa Foundation, Mrs. Olutoyin Oyelade, to kick off the conference.
Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a joy to see you all here today. Thank you all for coming. I just have a short welcome address, and I'm just going to quickly deliver that. The Federal Minister of State from the Presidency, the Republic of Ghana, in the person of Honorable Minister Elvis Afriki Ankara. I hope I said that right. I'm sorry. You're welcome, sir. Afriki Ankara. You're welcome, sir. The Prime Representative and the Minister of Economic Development, Trade and Industry, Ontario, Canada, we welcome you to this event. Members of Parliament present here, the High Commissioner of the Republic of Ghana, High Commission in Ghana, in Canada, and the Consular General, Republic of Ghana, Consulate in Canada, in Toronto here. Other guest speakers, panelists, CEOs of the private equity firms in our midst today, esteemed professionals, business owners, and entrepreneurs, members of the Governing Council of Casa Foundation for International Development, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you all today. It's such a joy to welcome you all to the 4th edition of the Friends of Africa Economic Development Conference, this year 2014. It has indeed pleased our God, our Creator, to protect us through the year, as He alone deserves all the honor for giving us the rare privilege of gathering here again today to confer on the emerging and increasing opportunities in the frontier markets of Africa. For entrepreneurs, public and private sector practitioners, let me share quickly some thoughts with you today. My dad always said to me, "Child, pay attention to my instructions and never depart from my instructions, for they will become life to you and they will give health to your bones through the journey of life." I held on to those words as I grew up, and a few years ago, I found they weren't just mere words because I met a young man who recently came to town as a former refugee. Life in a hotel was new to this young man, and so were the great lights of the city. Each morning, he thanked God for the luxurious bath as he found himself in the hotel because he had never stayed in one. He used the soaps and always kept half of the used soap, but he noticed that every day brought a new bar of soap. He was amazed at the sheer comfort of it all, but he was joyful that he could wash with real soap for the first time. And this soap was also always replenished. After days of rationing the soap, he returned the new bars to the concierge to avoid charges by the hotel. But then he was told that the comfort of the soap was his to enjoy on a daily basis, and he would always get replenishment from the hotel. He wondered at the sheer waste of it all, because he always had half-used soap and he always had new soap in his hotel room as long as he stayed there. Then it occurred to him to ask why it was so, because he possibly remembered his dad's instruction that in every waste there's always a gain, and in every moment there's always an opportunity. He spoke to his dad and asked to collect the used bar soaps and to send them back home where soap was a luxury. The more he collected the soap, the more cumbersome it became to manage the stock in his basement, by the time he moved to his basement, until his community joined him to recycle the soaps and to send the soap home. Ladies and gentlemen, today, Bulgari, the fashion designer, and the Holiday Inn Hotel in the United States, Asia, and Europe are various chains that have joined Fortune 500 companies to fund the Global Soap Project. The Global Soap Project supplies soaps to the country of Uganda, and that's a young man's country of birth. But not only in Uganda do we enjoy the soap is also enjoyed in 32 countries of the world today. On the board of Global Soap are executives of Deloitte & Touche, Procter & Gamble, and the top banks in the United States, including the Citibank, New York. The company now provides macro loans to soap makers, starting with the Dominican Republic. It has not only impacted lives, it is an example of the goal that can be mined from waste. It is a journey of opportunities by paying attention to instructions, and truth be told, it actually reminds me of what Africa can become. Today, many thank the young man for not only remembering his dad's instruction, but for seizing the opportunity to give life and health to 32 countries of the world. Casa Foundation proudly associates and supports the Global Soap Project and its founder, Derek Kayongo. I'll go to my speech. I just wanted to share that story with you. We'll come back to it. When the FOA platform was conceived in 2011, which is the Friends of Africa, it focused largely on how the benefits of rapid infrastructure development seen in North America can be replicated across Africa. This formed the theme of our discussions at our various seminars and youth forums across the GTA. However, the Friends of Africa platform has since evolved to acknowledge the role of the private sector and its emerging businesses and entrepreneurs in sustainable economic development. It's a pleasure that the SMEs have become the reason that the economies of developed nations continue to thrive, and that they are the engines that drive the growth that we see today. SMEs constitute about 90% of these economies, and their GDP contribution is actually quite significant to mention. We have about 32% in the United States, about 78% in South Korea, and even in Canada right here, we have about 30% SMEs contributing to the economy of Canada. SMEs, my mind tells me therefore that we can never ignore the SMEs, the small and medium scale enterprises at the SMEs. We can never ignore them in our community. And it is one of the reasons we're gathered here today. They not only create more than 50% of jobs, they are innovative, they pay their taxes, and they have a productive capacity that can never be ignored. A large number of these SMEs are run by vibrant people like you and I. The SMEs are the reason that the Ontario government's Ministry of Economic Development, Trade and Industry, senior officials and executives are here with us today. And at the next session, after the speech, they will be taking the stage to make their presentations on the Business, Finance and Entrepreneurship Roundtable. They will unveil to us today the Ontario government's plan to fund and support and empower the SMEs in their business expansion project. Yesterday, geography was destiny, and your location determined your reach. Your reach determined the profits that you made, and the profits that you made determined the success and how far you could go. It's what Michael Porter calls the competitive advantage of nations, the diamond clusters. The diamond clusters are the types that you see in the United States of America, Silicon Valley, you know about that. You see such places, the diamond clusters in India, where you have Bangalore. They produce software, so you have a lot of software development companies, and most of the banks actually patronize them. And so they've created a market. It's a niche. It's the diamond cluster. You have the same thing in France, Champs-Élysées, fashion designers, the whole street. It's what you know about Paris. What do we have in Africa? The diamond clusters must be determined. The diamond clusters must be identified as individuals, as a country, as a continent. We need to know what our diamond clusters are. It's not about the geography anymore. It's about what you're able to determine about yourself, about your country, about your group, about the associations to which you belong, and how you're able to turn those clusters around to begin to mine money for you to expand the economy. It's not about the government itself expanding the economy or developing the economy. It's about what the SMEs can do. Michael Porter continues that national prosperity is created and it is not inherited. I make bold to say that national prosperity is neither sustained through transfer. It has to be envisioned, it has to be identified, it has to be developed, and it has to be understood to become possible. If you can't see it, you can't create it. If you can't create it, you can't make it happen. And it's dependent on all of us here today. The fastest way to sustain the investment traffic that we're beginning to see in Africa is by creating the clusters that we're talking about. Before now, it was almost impossible to get investors from the West to consider taking a bet on the African risk. It was deemed the risky region. Nobody wanted to come there. And even when people wanted to come, they could only deal with government. However, the story is changing today. Whereas the governments of Africa drove the economic development of their nations almost 80%. You had to deal with the public sector to be in business. The story is changing today. And why do I say so? About 3 weeks ago, BlackRock, which is one of the biggest private equity firms in North America, BlackRock Investments, partnered with a trading group from out of Africa called Dangote. Well, it's a manufacturing group. We see them as a trading group. But what's important is they decided to partner with Dangote. That's outside of government. That's a private initiative by a businessman who decided to live his dreams. $600 million deal done with Dangote, one of Africa's biggest manufacturers, and now in North America, 3G Capital. Perhaps you did not know that most of the eateries and most of the big companies that you see around, they are owned by private equity funds. But we see them, Burger King, McDonald's, but they've been taken over by private equity funds because those are the people funding them. 3G Capital have become the owners of Burger King, and they have decided to buy Tim Hortons, which is a coffee shop maker that we see around here, and the deal of about $3 billion. And so why has that become interesting to us? Because Silk Invest, which is also a private equity firm coming out of Africa, Morocco, took over what we all used to know as Mr. Biggs, which used to be a dominant player in a small franchise food chain in Nigeria, Ghana, some parts of Ghana. And so Silk Invest also decided to take that over, possibly taking a cue from what they saw happening around us in North America. And these are the trends that we're beginning to see from the SMEs, from the small businesses. And these are the things that we look forward to having, even as things evolve in Africa. Today, it gives me such great pleasure to welcome CEOs of private equity firms, some of them to the investment roundtable session today. The session provides some insights on the underexploited markets of Africa that you and I may wish to tap into, and how they partner locally for business sustainability. We look forward to the discourse on how these firms do business in Africa and their convictions about why Africa has become the next investment haven. Public sector presentations today will be led by our guest speaker at this conference, the Minister for Presidency, Honorable Elvis Afriye Ankrah. He will showcase available opportunities and incentives that entrepreneurs get when they bring their skills, knowledge, and competencies, and the funds to Africa. As the discourse on African investment takes root across the global markets, the focus on Africa's middle class, a growing young population, currently placed at 40% of its population, and its increasing appetite for consumer products, will interest even the risk-averse. You need to find out how to meet the needs and the gaps in our markets at the various sessions today, and the B2B sessions afterwards. At an afternoon session, the chairman of Casa Foundation Governing Council will be announcing to this audience the Friend of Africa awardee. Who is that outstanding individual or socially conscious organization that has most impacted Africa in the view of our community? Esteemed participants, I started my speech with the story of a young man who touched lives in 32 countries through his Global Soap project. In 2012, before the Global Soap project took full root, that man was recognized as the first recipient of Casa Foundation's Friend of Africa, an award he received in 2012. It's a great pleasure and it's a great honor to be associated with Derek Kayongo, who should be joining us very soon. And we make bold to say that there are learning points to gain from Derek Kayongo, who started from his basement, but today is now represented in 32 countries of the world. Today also we welcome other members of the Hall of Fame of Casa Foundation Friends of Africa who are in our midst, and we believe that they will be joining the recipient of today at the awards session. Ladies and gentlemen, Africa is ready to be explored. The challenges and opportunities are immense, but those who win the game are those who not only dream about the game, they find the game, they kill the game, and they eat it with others. That's why they are called winners. Today, I invite you to join the winners as I welcome you all on behalf of Casa Foundation's Governing Council to the Friends of Africa Economic Development Conference 2014. Thank you very much for listening. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I would like to introduce a few people in our midst before I bring them onto the stage. We have today already seated the Federal Minister of State from the Presidency, Republic of Ghana, Honorable Elvis Afriye Ankara. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today we also have in our midst the Consul General of the Republic of Ghana in Canada, Mr. Joseph Amin. Kelly Bryan Murray is one of the directors and senior executives of the Ontario government in the Ministry of Economic Development and Trade. And he's joined us today to share the perspectives of the Ontario government with us on small business financing grants, available grants for SMEs that we've been talking about. We believe that there are a lot of learning points to gain from this session. And Kelly actually set up a table out there so that you can actually network after his session. He wants a breakout session with some of you entrepreneurs in our midst. Kelly, you're welcome today. And in our midst today also we have Mike Makolongo. Mike Makolongo is also representing the government of Ontario in our midst today. He will be joining us at another session much later. Ladies and gentlemen, as we progress with the meetings today, we'll be bringing to your attention the other speakers at the various sessions that we have. And we'll be calling them up. So I won't bother, I won't take your time by introducing them just yet. We'll just bring them up as they come. Today also in our midst, we have professionals, esteemed professionals from across Canada. The team from Ottawa, we thank you so much for coming, represented and led by Mrs. Bola Odusi. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. Also, the team from Calgary, we thank you very much for joining us, represented by Dr. Adekunle Adegbulu. Thank you very much for coming. I see in our midst today, somewhere at the back, I think it's called PWA. I think that's it. That's all. Thank you very much for joining us. At this juncture, I would invite to the stage the Consular General of the Republic of Ghana, Mr. Joseph Amin, to welcome us all and deliver the goodwill comments. Thank you.